In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to take and duplicate a phrase in the Fantom-G, make a totally new, independent, standalone copy of the phrase, and then once you've duplicated the phrase, how to take and change the sounds in that new duplicate of the phrase. So in this example, I'm going to use one of the phrases that's part of the new FG Connects project, and I'm going to use a phrase that's found in the collection of RPS sets that we have. So I'm going to go to where it says 97 BPM hip hop, and I'm going to choose this as my example phrase. That's number 14, number 679. All right, we want to make a note of that number 679. So let's quickly review, though, what we mean by the difference between making a copy of a phrase, which is available in our song edit under F3, versus duplicating a phrase. First, let's place phrase number 679 in our playlist. So I'm going to go to F1 Insert and open up my phrase list and go to phrase 679 and press Insert. And I can play the phrase. So let's review the difference between making a copy of a phrase and duplicating a phrase. If I press F3 copy right now, essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating a reflection or a mirror of our original phrase here. So the new phrases, these are not standalone or independent phrases. These are basically pointing back to this original phrase. And that's what a copy means. And that's very similar to a function that you'll find in many computer programs. And you're probably familiar with that. And if you're a Mac user, you're familiar with that concept already because aliases are used all through the Mac operating system. And one of the advantages of copying a phrase is that if you make a change to one of the phrases, let's say by sequencing some new data to that phrase, then that update is carried over to all the subsequent copies. Again, I recorded my new keyboard part to the first phrase. And now if I go to my copies, they also now contain that new keyboard part. Now let's say I didn't like that new keyboard part. I could press Menu and Undo. And guess what? All three copies no longer contain that keyboard part. Now let's go and let's duplicate phrase 679. When we duplicate a phrase, what that does is instead of creating a copy or an alias, that actually makes an independent, standalone new phrase that we can change and edit any way we want that won't be carried over to the original phrase. And to do that, it's very simple. We press F8 song play and we go to our phrase list. And one of the great features of the Fantom is this MIDI phrase list, because this is your phrase library for your projects. It can hold up to 2,000 phrases, and with the FG Connects project, we've added over 700 patterns and phrases to this list that you can use in any of the songs and any of your projects. So we're going to go to 679, our phrase, and to duplicate that I'm going to press F3 utility menu. Go to duplicate, press F8, and OK. And then the duplicate of the phrase is placed in the phrase list at the next available open spot in the phrase list. In my example, that would be here at the very end of the phrase list, at number 754. So I'm going to save that phrase. I can give it a unique name if I want, and press OK to save it. And here's my new phrase. Okay, Now let's say I want to change the bass sound in that phrase to a new bass sound. I'm going to open up my studio mixer, and my bass sound is on part number 2. But let's say I want to change in my new duplicate phrase and use this bass sound, which is on part number 14. To do that, again, I'll go back to Song, go back to my phrase list, find my new phrase, and I'm going to press F8 Phrase Edit, and press F3 Modify. And I'm going to go to Change Channel. And remember, when you go to the studio mixer in the Fantom, a part is the same as a MIDI channel if you're working with the internal sounds. I'm going to go to Measure, and I'm going to make sure that I'm starting on Measure 1, and All is selected, so I'm changing the sound throughout the entire phrase. Status, I'll keep to All, and then select Part Group. And I'll select All. My source channel is Channel 2. And my source channel is Channel 2, and I remember that from when I went to my studio mixer and checked that. Destination part group, here at the bottom of the display, should be set to internal, because we're playing the internal sounds in the Fantom-G. And the destination channel should be Channel 14. And then I'll press F8, Execute. And we can now press F7 to preview the results. So now my bass sound, which was originally on part 2, has now been changed to play on part number 14. And if I press F2, I can save that change to that phrase. Alright, now let's go back to our song list, and then let's compare the original phrase to our new phrase. So I'll go to Measure 5, and let me expand the zoom. And I'm going to go to F8 Song Edit. Go to F1 Insert, and from my phrase list, I'm going to choose our new phrase, 754. Select. And now, when we play the difference, we'll hear the original phrase with the original bass played on part 2, and then our new duplicate phrase with that same bass line, but it now being played using the sound on part 14.